to do. Sorry for those watching the recording. I've just done the intro. We forgot to press play, but welcome into our dialogue session. And thank you, Corey, for helping us with the co-design and not only bringing your expertise in harvesting learning from groups, but also giving a participant perspective on what might be valuable. So that was fantastic. So we're going to go into some breakouts soon, but we thought we'd start with just a whole group digestion of this massive output and all this energy that we put into the story decks and the landscape showcase. So to ground into that space, I'm going to invite everyone to close their eyes and just listen as we take a little bit of a walk back through what the journey has been for people. And so just relaxing into your seat, taking a deep breath, and thinking about when was the first time you heard the mention of producing a story deck. For some people, it was really early. It was during a public information session. For some people, it might not really have crossed your mind until somewhere in late November. But just remember that moment and what thoughts and feelings it brought up. And do the same thing also with when you heard that your group would be presenting your story deck at a Regenerate Cascadia Landscape Showcase. And that marks the beginning of our journey together in this collective accomplishment. And now think back to December when we first introduced the content session about what we're going to do together, story decks, the theories that sit behind them. What were some of the feelings that came up? What were some of the group experiences you had? And then think through to the classroom in December where you received your first major resource, which was the structure for the story itself. And you had the opportunity now to jump into content development. What did that spark for you in your landscape group's journey together? How did the process begin to unfold when it was time to really start to craft that content? And then slide through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we're back on deck in January. You get your next major resource in a classroom, which is the graphic design template. And now it's starting to get really real. This is what it's going to look like. We've got to start thinking about how to format all of this. And then think about the process of going back through the catalog of your networks, who you wanted to invite, how you were adopting copy, your invitation outreach process. And then think about those last two classrooms where you had to do your dry runs. You had to start putting word to mouth and presenting your story decks and what that learning journey was like for you and your group. And finally, think about those 2 days. You're in the Zoom room, you've got your nerves going on, we've had our tech briefing, you're the second group up. What did it feel like to head into that event with hundreds and hundreds of people on the call, to present and then to release and relax and then to experience the energy and the vibe and the interest that was in those large Zoom rooms? And so that's the journey we've been on. It's a big one. Now, just as we come back into the room to have a conversation, just think about what you'd like to share about that whole learning journey. What comes to mind? What are the things you want to celebrate? What are the things you'd like to share with others on the call? And now I invite everyone to open their eyes and let's have some dialogue. You can raise your virtual hands, you can raise your human hands, and let's talk about it. How was it? Hello, Asha and Shaylee. Corey, take us out, lead us out.
I don't know if it's the answer to what your question was, but I just I just thought it was fantastic to hear from every group and that every group is different, but yet there's but we're all doing going towards the same goals. I loved hearing the uniqueness of every group and how you're going about things. I learned things from every group. I've got pages and pages of notes from every group. And it wasn't about how posh or unposh or polished or unpolished they were. It was about people telling their stories. I just think it was fantastic.
I agree, Corey. David.
Me?
Oh,
What's that,
David,
David?
the one
Okay.
with his Virtual hand up, David
The
cannot.
other David.
The other, well, there's a
There's
few of you.
only three of us on the call.
Yeah, well, I tell you, we're used to it.
Yeah. Thanks, Corey, and ditto on that part. And for me to speak about the whole journey from November through on, it was a good lesson in trust. Like, I don't really know how this is going to unfold. It's not clear to me. Um, but each step of the way, it became a bit more clear and a bit more clear and a bit more clear. So in hindsight, I can definitely see all the integrity. And even in foresight, I could feel it, but I couldn't quite name it or say exactly what it was going to be. So,
Mm.
um, yeah. And then by the time I saw the, not the guide, but the template, the graphic template, it was like, okay, we've got everything we need. At this point, between us as our team, between the guide, between the graphics, it's like, we got this, no problem. Let's just do it. And our team, happy with our team, how we divided it up, wove it together, didn't micromanage each other's sections too much. But it's easy to do. So thank you for the guidance and giving us what we need at just the right time.
You're very welcome, David, and thanks for noticing. And over to you, David McLeod. I now know
And
how to
just
pronounce that.
before you go, David, I was just going to say, I just want to highlight what you said there as well, David, was that
Mm-hmm.
before you could understand, you were feeling it in your body. And I think I just wanted to lift that
Mm-hmm.
up. I felt like that was something that's really good to pay attention to and really appreciate you
Yeah,
doing that.
thank you.
Yeah, there were elements of overwhelm, like, oh my God, this is a big task for us to do. But, thinking back to this kind of whole process that you guys have given to us, there have been those parts where we ask a question for clarification and sometimes we get the response like, oh, that's a really good question. Let's get back to you on that. And it's this idea of, going all the way back to, some of the things Joe Brewer has said about we live the story by walking it. We're not figuring everything out in advance. So that was, one lesson that we have to kind of keep coming back to. But the other part that was really helpful was that you guys did do a certain amount of planning for us, like creating for the application to be a landscape group. You embedded all these things for us to think through. And then when it came time to take the story deck, we could go back to that. And that was our starting place. And that gave us a big, leap forward in ability to put this together. So very thankful for you guys in kind of creating this path for us that step by step made it doable. Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
I'll go
Thank you.
ahead and follow up since it's kind of just our group and just to a little continuity. Yeah, I agree with much of what everybody said. For me, there was a little bit. We divided up our story deck kind of into sections, and to be honest, I didn't feel totally comfortable with my section, and so I had a little bit of a hard time getting traction, like finding my narrative, trying to find how to voice that. And so it was a little bit of a struggle for me and figuring that out. Um, with my team members and stuff, they helped navigate that and we got it sorted and I felt comfortable with it in the end. But also there was something about the way that it was like put together in sections that kind of also short-circuited some ways that we may have felt into the delivery of our experience in our landscape. So that's not a negative criticism. It's just something to think about in the future as allowing a little bit of breadth and bandwidth for people to have more of a personal expression within their own experience in that landscape. I'm pretty much grounded in hands-on on in the dirt, practical applications of all kinds of regenerative processes. And so, working in a Zoom presentation kind of boiling it down to 15 minutes or whatever is a little bit of a challenge. But it was a good exercise, and I feel really whole to be part of this whole process and included and really enjoyed all the other landscapes presentations and stuff as well.
Brian, which section did you have that you felt uncomfortable with?
Well, it's weird because it was like how does what was it? How does the landscape um design you or how
How does
does
the
the
land organize us?
organize us? And
Ah,
it's like that is like my being. I've been like organized by the landscape, but like how do you put that into this broader context? I just couldn't it was challenging.
Yeah.
It made me kind of soul search, and it was like I definitely struggled with it. Um, it like from a community based, and it's like, yeah, you can do the mainframe design. Yeah, the water designs the valleys, and that designs the farmland and the forest, and da 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 da. But it's like when it comes to touching the soul and like how does it organize your thought process and like these deeper things, it kind of short circuited some of that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it was the tip of the iceberg on all
Yeah,
things, bioregionalism, right relationship,
right.
regeneration, landscape groups, what's the LHC? It was absolutely the tip of the iceberg. And I would love, we don't have too much time more, but I'd love to hear about what it feels like. We have gone public, like, I mean, the cat's out of the bag. We have a much more expansive public presence and vehicle now. David.
Well, I'd like to kind of carry on with what Brian put out. And of course, the framework that you asked us all to follow in both in a visual context, and also in a subject context. And so I wasn't that terribly comfortable with, and as you can see, and what I eventually produced was quite different than everybody else's, and it was um, in reaction to, because it didn't, when the land speaks to me, what does the land say? And the land didn't put me in all those classifications, and I think in some ways that um, because there was the similarity and throughout all of them, the kind of visual memory that you get from a given group was diminished because we all look the same. We said different things, but words get lost in vision. And in some ways, there was a kind of a pancaking of the groups as I watched all nine give their presentation. And now that I kind of come back and try to remember it, um, and I appreciate what you were trying to do in terms of the unity of the total presentation. But in other ways, it didn't allow us to remember each other in a way that was much more visceral.
Yeah.
I think, a much more effective. Um, and as you saw, I did something very different. I've been really moved by the fact that um, it's a cultural transformation that we're seeking. The technical side, the relation back to the earth, and doing all the projects and such. But it's this cultural component that's so important. And what is our story? That's why I helped create that early story of who remembers the tide, and how I feel so tied to that. In that everything that we work with, and there's in the language that's coming permeating around us, not from the regenerate folks, but from all around us, is one of place, in place, in connection, in passion. Then how do we translate that into that cultural context? And somewhat the prima forma questions tended to be not about that cultural transformation as much as I would have thought. But then again, it worked. Everybody had a great time. It all succeeded. But just
I
that,
would love to say something to what you're saying, David, is I'm noticing there is like you've got like a distribution curve of the kinds of people that are in part of a group. And your artists and your people that are sort of thinking in a particular kind of way will push against the structure. And you're seeing that happening. And I'm so glad you're articulating that what was there was not what was working for you. And at the same time, so this is like a snapshot in time of your story. You can take it in any direction you want, but paying attention to how you work and that's your gift of being able to see. And so you're actually demonstrating, for some people, that might have been really helpful. And for others, it's something to push against because you needed more. And I think that that's like working it's a way of working, but it seems like a backwards way, or like a sort of different way of, but it's really important what you're articulating. So, and I also want to just say that there is this research that shows that 70% you should be aiming for about 70% to really hit the mark because there's got to be diversity in the group, and you're going to find people, and you need those people. You're going to push those edges, so and need something different. So yeah,
We're going to wrap up, and Shaylee will definitely go to you first, but just to quickly say, a bit of hand holding in that first project. Yeah, we've got groups on all different levels. We've got a big public moment, bit of hand holding in terms of trying to make it easier, but also limiting the level of diversity and uniqueness. But moving forward, because we're going to keep doing project action learning together, we can really hear that call for a lighter touch and more freedom from for groups. Shaylee.
Yeah. I wrote it down, so hopefully I'm fast. I thought it was inspiring to see where longer established groups were. It adds a lot of context to what RC is doing through all the different pictures painted by the groups. I think I got questions from people of like, well, what is it? I was like, well, this is what it is, and try to go to the showcase, and the videos will be available later, hopefully, even for those who don't register if you can't. And I'm looking forward a lot to when people can land here together with enough time and presence to showcase the Olympics. I'm really hopeful and trusting that that's going to happen. There's so much going on out here, and it's such a big land base. So I'm excited for that and the awesome timing of when us doing different work in our different areas will be able to work together and with other groups and showcase here. And it's cool to see all the different ways groups were doing that. I also liked how it hints at the mapping. It's like what the fellow before me was saying. It hints at the mapping and the different storytelling that is awesome to have, that kind of needs to be told, and how much learning and resource sharing and working through obstacles we can have when there are those opportunities to like story deck 1.2, where like each little thing that's mentioned can go another layer. And I think that's part of what mapping has the opportunity to do. Because in a map, you can like have an embedded little story for that little project that can share. And so that's exciting. And I'm looking forward to like being, I don't know, witnessing it or being involved in it in some way. So thanks.
I think
Yeah.
you've really highlighted the levels, yeah, the levels in terms of development and the time and the phases, the levels that can go into the layers of mapping. It's pretty sophisticated work, and it has an elegance to it. And so we're going to shift into our next phase, which is we'll have 2 rounds of breakout rooms with 3 to 4 people in each. They're randomized, so it'll just be whoever you end up with, and you'll have 12 minutes in that. In this first breakout room, did you want to pop the prompt into the chat player? Oh, you did. Oh, look at me not being able to see. Oh, where is it? I don't.
Oh, it's not there. Okay, God, I forgot.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So yeah, we want you for this first round. You have around 3 to 4 minutes each to have a chat on what has it been like to learn in the last 3 months through the Landscape Hub Cultivator. And there's 2 parts to that we want you to explore. One is the learning within your landscape group as you've moved through the action learning project and the output, but also learning to live in parallel with 9 other landscape groups. So that's our first prompt. Does that make sense, just as a discovery prompt for you? Yep. Okay, great. So Claire, when you're ready.
Yeah, they're open.
All right, great. So people should just go in randomly then. And then where is Brandon? Brandon, where are you, Brandon?
Oh, he's gone into a room because
Oh,
he
can you?
wasn't a co-host. No, you have to, I'll just move
I have
him.
to make him, but I can't make him. I'm going to
Okay.
stop the recording. Recording again. Welcome back in. Welcome back in. So we'll just continue in the vein that we were before, just whole group dialogue. We'd love to hear some reflections or some repeating of stories or thinking that was happening in your smaller group chat. Harry.
Hi. We were just talking about frustrations with the rate of growth of Regenerate Cascadia and our local groups as well. And okay, I lower my hand. You can. I don't care, whatever. Anyway, and the difficulty, the challenge that I'm finding, and I think our group is finding, is it's real easy to describe things, but to see trees and fish and water and what have you as relatives in a really truly land-based ethic, that I think is very new amongst us white folks at least, and us colonists, and that's a very slow organic growth. Then I think we're building it. And one question we had for you, Taya, and maybe Claire, and that is, of all the people who saw the workshops last week, what's the intention to look out to the rest of the world? How are we going to what's going to be done with all of the connections with the other people who attended besides the landscapers?
Would like a bit more clarity around the question you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were more than just the landscape hub cultivators who were at the sessions last Thursday and Friday. And what's the plan to outreach them, to touch them again, to begin to quote market them, or to get their input to begin to grow? I mean, there's a lot more landscape hubs to be made out there.
Brandon.
So, yeah, I might just jump in, and I'm curious too. Of also, I'd love to learn more about it. I'm curious about you saying like, that you see Regenerate Cascadia is growing slowly. That is a new take. So I'd love to learn more about that. No, just to specifically answer your question. So we have a lot of different follow-ups going on. The first is that we're going to have an email out to all registrants with the recording. So Taya's currently processing that. That'll probably go out tomorrow evening. You'll all get a copy of it. You'll all get an email. You'll get a link to the YouTube. So hopefully you will share it. Um, our big push is going to be to really invite people to come into the learning journey. Um, and so that'll be in the design school for regenerating Earth. And it's our third year of doing it. It's a 6-month learning journey. And the exciting thing this year, so we'll actually be bringing on a new learning journey steward. Um, and this year is very exciting because it'll be happening in parallel with phase 2 of the Landscape Hub Cultivator. So we're very excited about that outreach. And then just to say that there is a tremendous amount of weaving and interconnection going on between, Joe Brewer's going to do a design school thing in the Mississippi. There's a Mediterranean gathering. There's the Turtle Island Bioregional Congress. There's the R3.0. And then I'll just be very specific in that I think also, Taya's going to batch your slides. And I think we'll do more types. And then also, like, I think we'll create a merged video product that'll also be available at some point. But we'll also break them out so that each group, you'll have your own video embedded on the website and other things. And I'll just say, in terms of broader marketing, once we have that, I mean, it'll go out to the general Cascadia Department of Bioregion list. It'll go out to the Regenerate Cascadia list, and it will go out to all attendees as follow-up. And so, and social media channels.
And I'll just jump in, and I want to be quick because I want to hear from a few other circles. I think in terms of the deeper part of your question, Perry, we talk about the bioregen program and we talk about the BioFi program, but really we've had to build the opening infrastructure for the bioregen program first. What we know we need. So this showcase was just the tip of the iceberg, just the tip. What we want to do throughout the Landscape Hub Cultivator is to purposely convene on-ground regenerators, systemic impact investors, funders, philanthropists. We want to start to join. And then there are whole other parts of the funnel, people that are working at the networked ecosystem level and also convening with funders. We want to purposefully start to gather those people in the room for not so much presentations, but dialogue back and forth around what on-ground needs look like and what funder impact risk mitigation needs look like, so that then we can be co-designing for both the groups that are involved in bringing bioregional finance into fruition. We're not there yet, and it takes time, but absolutely, you guys have kicked that process off in a way that means people are really taking this seriously. And we've been inundated with opportunities for engagement phone calls with some of those types of people that were at the showcase wanting to reach out. We don't have a lot of time right now, but we'll continue to forge those networks as we build the team's capacity to hold both the Hub Cultivator and that further outreach at the same time.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit long, Claire. You've got your hand up.
No, I just wanted to, there's just a little bit of other stuff that I felt like needed to come out as well. Yeah, being able to tell as a group, being able to tell your story. And we've kind of touched on this. I see that it's come up in the chat a little bit as well. But being able to tell your story to your landscape. And so in terms of the audience, the vast majority are probably people from your landscape or that will be helpful at the different nested scales for the conversation you're having. And so like it's meant to be a tool, but it's also meant to help bring you together. So there's an alignment of how do we tell the story? It's not going to be perfect, but it's a way of going through the process. So I think, and then the other thing is that, there is a lot of interest around the world in what we're doing. It's really unique what we're doing here, which is focusing on the people connected to the work that is going on in those communities and investing in, this is infrastructure we're building. We're building the capacity to hold, being able to, do this work, which is part of it is just even being able to articulate to others what we're doing. So it's meant to be a tool. It's meant to be inspiration. Yeah, and I think that also I really want to emphasize, we hope we're communicating to you that this is a co-creative process. So your feedback is really important in how we go forward as well. We've articulated the vision as well, so you know what you entered into, but yeah, I'm going to stop there.
Over to you, Brian, and then let's hear from a few other people about what was coming up in your circles, your breakout room.
Christoph had
Yeah, so this kind of came up in our circle, but it also dovetails with the current conversation. And this is about how do we tell the story of what is Regenerate Cascadia. And we get this question a lot. What are you doing? What watersheds did you recover? What forests are you preserving? All this stuff. That's all the sexy on the ground, like really stuff. But underlying all of this, it's about regenerating culture and building connections. And that is not sexy, and it's a real hard sell to people. So how do we communicate this in a way that invites buy-in, invites engagement with it? Because until you regenerate the mindset that wants to steward land and reciprocity and acknowledgement and caring for the land, you can have all the tools in the toolbox, but you're not going to be able to sustain it. It's gonna fail. So it's about changing the mindset and changing the culture around living in place. And so this is really our narrative that I think we need to get really clear on and find a way to convey that to get more buy-in.
And I do just want to say you can convey something about culture change to the cows come home, but at the end of the day, the true work is sticking to your guns and taking the time it takes and not letting it move too fast that we end up back where we started, we've moved on from being able to sustain. We have to regenerate. We have to bring back what is lost. And I have worked extensively in the more centralized systems, carbon trading mechanisms, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen projects and land be regenerated and then be clear-felled again because they have not moved at the speed of right relationship and culture change.
Yeah,
So
and
there's
so
one of the tensions we have to hold.
and that's why it takes a long time, Perry. You know, like why are we not moving fast? Because we're moving at that speed of trust. We're moving at the speed of building relationships, building the solid foundation that's going to go in it for the long haul.
Enduring. And those results, those really obvious, sexy results, they'll come. And our job is to keep people informed of what it looks like to get there. Over to you, Christoph.
Yeah, I really appreciate those last two conversations around both the larger challenge. Now that you've built this infrastructure for the landscape groups in the Hub Cultivator program, to then how do we start to engage with other organizations who are doing this work in parallel, oftentimes with very similar goals and values, maybe using some different language, maybe using very similar language. There was a number of folks who reached out to us really asking that question, right? So one was very excited about working with us as an individual landscape group in our specific landscape. The other was, how can we work across our organizations to start to build out this larger infrastructural ecosystem? And I think that speaks directly to how we do this culture change that's based on really not just it has to start with the relational trust and that at that level of the network, but really for me it's about shifting and transforming systems so that they're not causing harm and they are starting to regenerate regions. And so that feels like to me like the larger goal. We're all doing it where we're at in place based on the relationships we have with the land and with other people that we're working with in organizations. But I think that would be a great stretch goal for RC and the whole program. Is now that the infrastructure for the Landscape Hub Cultivator is up and running, and you're going to go into another round of the design school for regenerating all that, is to start to figure out what the systems sort of networking infrastructure looks like for these other groups, both locally, but also internationally, nationally, and all of that. So looking forward to that conversation and being able to maybe participate in some of that co-design of that systems transition as well.
Wonderful. And I think you're speaking to the next part of the funnel. It's like there's a part of the funnel between us on-ground regenerators and systems change agents and the funders. And I think that's what I hear you really speaking to, Christoph. And we will need to lean into that and let's do it in a co-creative way. David, Keta.
Thank you for the clarity. Yeah, and thanks for those comments and these really big picture things that I too am. One thing that I was inspired by is hearing from the other groups and finally getting a sense of, oh, I could see connecting with the other landscape groups. And in short order, there were definitely a few things that I heard were like, I want to know more about that so that we might do it. So I look forward to that. And that will come in time. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because our networking is next with the bioregional mapping when we've got a ton of networking to do right here in our own regions. So I'm still pretty focused in our region while reaching out as needed here and there, but we'll see how that goes. But back to the feedback about specifically what was the learning like in the learning container. Over the broad arc, this is a very broad brushstroke. The first few classroom sessions felt a little, technical term here, wonky. Like not quite sure what we're doing here, and I thought we'd be sharing more, but then we're hearing more from the staff, and then some direct requests were made to have more of this, that, or the other thing, and I definitely appreciate the adjustments that were made at that time. So to me, in hindsight, now it's like, yeah, wonky at first, like what's going on? I don't quite get it. And then evolution happened. It was a learning curve. Everybody adjusted, and it seemed to run well by the time we hit the end here and we got what we needed. So well done.
And look, this is not to toot our horns, but like 40 plus people coming together into a new platform with the task of a cohesive professional showcase. Like three
Yeah.
months later, like wow,
Mhm.
like we we did that.
Definitely. Well
So
done.
we started out with the lowest hanging fruit. Bioregional mapping is going to be a big lift from that, and now we've got so many foundations in place. Claire, I looked like you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, just to say, I actually think that was a really good segue to talking about our next breakout room, which
Perfect.
is really looking at how is the learning environment been and the container that we've created. And so I'm going to put this in the chat.
Oh, I'll do it, Claire, if you want. You can keep briefing.
There we go. Yeah, no, it's there.
Oh, sorry, I've done it twice. Yeah, good.
And yeah, so how have the different tools that we've put together, like how is it working? How can we, how's it working for you? What could we improve on? What, just, yeah, your thoughts. So the question's there. And we'll send you again, you've got 12 minutes in the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back.
Are they new ones this time to move to
Fine.
GCs? Yeah, perfect. So any clarification before we open the breakout rooms on what this next question prompt is around? Okay, great. Fantastic.
Great.
Start the recording. Welcome back. We missed you. So we're going to go ahead again. We're going to open up for around 15 minutes of open group dialogue and conversation. We'd love to hear from some different voices up front. What occurred in that last conversation in the breakout room? What are some of the things you'd like to share into the whole space?
Nope.
Are you
I
going
can
to share, Daniel?
go ahead and start. Yeah, one of the biggest disappointments I had with the way the classroom time was structured, and really
Got it.
the whole cohort thing, is that we've been siloed into our landscapes and not cross-pollinating across the landscapes. There's been so little working with other landscapes throughout this process that, it's like might as well have been doing this on my own instead of being here in the group. And that feels like a really huge missed opportunity.
Thank you for that feedback, Shapit.
Yeah.
Yeah, here, I've got something to say too, Taya, and
Wait,
it's
David, we've got people with their hands up, so we're going to
all right.
just honor that system.
I'm on my phone.
Okay, so Kendall?
Yeah, I think we recognized the nature of the showcase as really kind of presenting itself as sort of more of a opportunity for you all to orchestrate the process, as well as like introduce us to like the container and how everything's working. And so maybe the relationship from that felt more like not top down, but like more facilitated. Um, and we also shared that like that was really effective. Like this whole showcase process, like we got a really amazing product out of that, and that there's a sentiment that was really worth it. And we're hoping that in the next phase that there will be more ground up co-created opportunities for us to like build systems and workflows together. Um, so that was the biggest sentiment. And I think one other thing, as far as mining networks goes, we haven't really been engaging with it as much. And I'm curious. I'm curious to see what other features could be useful for this process. But yeah, it hasn't really been very needed up until this point.
I just asked Kendall, do you receive because I use it to communicate everything and then that gets emailed as well. Are you getting the updates, the info update? That's really the most critical aspect of it.
Do you have
get
to
those
go in
updates?
and set it to forward to your email inbox to get those? 'Cause
No,
I get I okay.
So do you get like your daily digest notification? There's an update.
No,
You're not getting any of that. Okay,
no.
we'll follow up on that in our online eval. Sue.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I kind of echo the first comment. The first session we got together and all the groups were together, and we had some breakout groups where I met some people that I hadn't known. It was very exciting, and there was this very exciting feel, and and it's always one of the advantages of using Zoom is that we're able to meet people that aren't in our local landscape. And that's been something with all of this that's been really good, even though we are very place-based and in-person based, been able to do some of these ideas. But so I was really disappointed the next time when we were broken up into smaller groups and then we were meeting with the landscape group that we had just met with in person. And our in-person meetings tended to be very dynamic and, online, probably because of me and technology and my relationship with it, just weren't as and it didn't I couldn't I think that I would have really benefited from seeing what other landscape groups were doing as well and meeting people in other landscapes, and that's what I really appreciated about the whole presentation, is to see what what and other landscapes are doing and to feel connected in with the larger Bari region. So
Thanks so much, Sue. David Haskell. Oh, you're on mute, Dol.
Here we go. Now I'd like to reinforce Mighty Network. I think it's vastly underutilized. And I know that being a former Slack user in my business, and I just ran, my email, I don't operate well out of my email because it's too cluttered and so having that information being exchanged, and I'd really like to encourage people, we can start bringing up topics that we want to deal with, and we can be much more spontaneous within the Mighty Network. And we could even, end up calling the Zoom calls about different things we could do. I mean, it's going to be challenging with this next community mapping process, and we can all share in our learning process. So I would really encourage everybody to sign up for Mighty Network, use it, make it your own.
Thanks, David. Christoph.
Yeah, that was just going to be my just brief comment in response to Brandon's question about, what are some ways that, we might want to collaborate across our different watersheds or landscape groups. And, what obviously comes to mind is sharing our processes for doing bioregional mapping, because that can look like a lot of different that can express in a lot of different ways. And I know Brandon's done a lot of this work, and we'll be sharing a lot of resources to be supporting us in that mapping process. But I think that's one way, sharing in how we're doing that and how we're developing that, but then also the end results, of course, and sharing across landscapes, co-learning.
Thank you, Christoph. Sue, is your hand up again or just from last time? Not from last time. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so I do. Oh, Shaylee, is that that's a hand? Yeah.
Nice, very quick. It's hard to figure out how to make my hand raise. The kind of similar to what we were talking in a breakout room with Shep and Genevieve about not having a lot of cross palliation, and similar to that is in the classroom, how we were supposed to be in one classroom, and that ended up kind of creating some conflict because I was only available in the mornings, and then that worked, but then it didn't work because other group members were only available at that night. So if it had started from the beginning of saying like landscape groups meet when you can, everybody's welcome to go to whatever classroom you can so you can meet the other landscape groups, it wouldn't have had that pressure for us to try to coordinate all morning or at night, and then we could have organically interacted with other landscape groups more, knowing outside of the classrooms we're going to be meeting with each other. And I just think that would have been helpful. Also, I think like someone else said about Mighty Network being underutilized, and I would love to have interest groups and more Zoom sessions, like again, Shapa and Genevieve did, for just meeting. Like, what if we had some about like cooperative development or food systems or regenerative communities, to allow us from all landscape groups to, as much as we have time, to start making spaces to learning from each other, where you guys don't have to facilitate that, but we can, because we like really want to learn and get to know each other. So like, why hold back on that relationship happening, you know? So that's it.
Great.
And
I want to just, oh, Claire?
yeah, I was just gonna say, remember, you are the front runners in this, and there are going to be, you know, as soon as we can, we'd like guilds to be coming on board, which are the skills like what you were talking about, and so that will start to populate the space. So as the front runners, like you are the ones that are helping people to see what this resource is. So of course, I just wanted to point that out too, that just to remember that you are that it's going.
You know, we threw a design together. Well, it was more than throwing a design. We got some infrastructure and we went for it, because we knew that the classrooms are designed. Our thinking around the classrooms was not about cross landscape. It was about giving you time outside of all the other work tasks to get the work done while you were on the program. And that might not be what you need. We might have missed the mark with that, but we wanted to make sure you had actual practical time to do the work with us, as opposed to that having to happen outside of the LHC programming hours. So if that hasn't, and there is content, we are building capacities. Yeah, we do have to teach certain things and get certain things organized. So certainly in the online form, we'd love to hear more nuance and more detail around that, so that we really know that we've heard you holistically as a system and can look at what might work more effectively and maybe with a bit more fluidity.
You want to go ahead? We've got 12 minutes.
Okay, so should we go into updates?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just a couple of updates, and Shaylee, and is Asha still on the call? Yep, there she is. We just wanted to give an update about Mount Olympus Olympic Peninsula. For those of you that joined day 2, that did not work. Rita's comment about giving us time to get. Okay, sorry, I'm a bit distracted by the chat. That Mount Olympus Olympic Peninsula Landscape Group did not present on day 2, and that was a joint decision. It was a little bit too much pressure coming onto a very, very newly formed group that formed in late October. It got their application in. You know, the learning here is that we were moving really quickly in 2025 to get people into the LHC, and we dropped a critical part of our learning funnel, which was seed groups, which is a place for a brand new group to form and start to do their forming and norming and storming and getting their own practices and processes in place. And so for the rest of this year's LHC, Mount Olympus Olympic Peninsula will not be joining us in the capacity of a landscape group. However, those landscape stewards are very much a part of this network. Will be continuing to activate the landscapes. We're really hoping that you'll be highly engaged in the Cascadia cohort, and that some seed groups will emerge on the Olympic Peninsula that can help us prove out that part of our pilot. And so we will have a bit of a chance for a check-in chat on the other end, but I'm going to just move us through a couple of updates just so that you're prepped during the break. Let me just share my screen. Okay, slideshow. So what to expect next in terms of phase 1 wrap up. So in terms of monitoring, evaluating, and learning, which is just such a critical part of this process, we're using a whole system approach. Bioregional learning is absolutely at the forefront of us being successful. So we will be following up with an online survey process that is super important. You'll receive it by the end of this week. There's options there for it to be totally anonymous. And we just really hope you've taken some notes today and that you'll be able to find the time to give us your full feedback. If it feels like the form is too laborious, but you've got some ideas and specific feedback, just please go to a point in the survey where it makes sense to share those specifics as opposed to not doing it at all. And phase one, $2,000 disbursement going to each landscape group, including Mount Olympus, Olympic Peninsula. That's a really big thing to celebrate. We're actually getting some funding flowing into the landscapes. We'll introduce the process for this during our phase two kickoff meeting on March 24th. I'll talk about the schedule momentarily. This will enable all or most landscape groups to go through that process at the same time because it involves DOB processes, it involves a landscape circle. It's actually quite a big systemic moment as we get the money flowing down to the groups. For those groups that want to access their $2,000 that you've already earned before then, please feel free to book into an office hours session because those will continue throughout the break, or you can email our landscapes email directly and our team members will be available to walk you through that process. In terms of Brandon, Claire, and myself as the LHC delivery team, we will be going on break. The hard lines of that break are February 21st to March 1st, and so we're not going to be on Mighty Network or responding or checking anything. But there's a soft line to that as well. There is a bit of time where some of us will still be working and available from February 19th to March 9th. So yeah, we hope that everyone feels free to take some time off and just regroup and prepare for the next phase. And we're committing to having the weekly office hours continue throughout that time. There might be one or two where none of us are there, but Sue and Drew are there. So then as we move into phase two planning, break between phase one and phase two. So we're looking to kick off phase two with an all participant meeting in the Tuesday evening slot on March 21st. So that's a week after the learning journey in the Cascadia cohort starts, which is a really important thing for us to make sure we get going. What we're hoping to do is in that first week back, we'll have a first quote unquote content session on the Friday, which is everyone all joining at the 10:30 a.m. spot. And in terms of, we all have to complete our online survey. We have to sense make all that feedback. We may completely devise a new structure, but for right now, we're acting as if there's not going to be too many changes to the overall structure. We will upload the first month of phase two program calendar that takes all of that feedback into consideration and all the online events to Mighty Network by March 18th, hopefully a little bit sooner, so that you can see what's coming in that month. You've got a week's notice on that. For now, please mark your calendars for March 24th in the evening and March 27th in the morning and plan for classrooms to start the following Tuesday, March 31st. And of course, we'll put all of this into a Mighty Network post and an email. You don't need to remember it right now. I think I've already said this. We are aiming to keep our existing schedule as much as possible, but we will consider all feedback and particularly around purpose. So it might be that the classroom structure of Tuesday morning and Tuesday evening works, but how we're using that time slot might, and the purpose behind it might change significantly depending on the feedback. Yeah, we really don't want you to feel locked in, but we are needing to manage a lot of other factors. And so just a little bit of homework, and this is all about getting the foundations for your bioregional mapping workshops. And so things that we know take time, we invite you to maybe start doing some thinking or some resource checking during the break. Venue possibilities. Venues can take a while to line up, and also venues can be really highly strategic in terms of that outreach and that group or whoever you're liaising with to utilize a venue. Indigenous history, protocols and relationships, something that takes time. It really is important to be prepped around this area before we head into the bioregional mapping workshops. And Claire, I might just hand to you to see if you want to say anything more on that.
Yeah, there's some stuff that you could just go by talking to a local institution or whatever, but there's different levels of how you can go about that. But understanding if there were treaties signed in your area, like just the historical facts and then understanding what tribal groups are there, what their status is, how, like the relationship with local authorities, just understanding some of that so that you understand tensions that could come up and having conversations so that you're going in a more informed way when we do start reaching out to people. And that, and yeah, there's nothing, it's so much easier to do your homework than to have to try and roll back something you've done that's really kind of yeah, really trampled on, something that really we don't want to be ignorant going into.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Claire. And also following up with individuals and groups from the showcase, you'll have the recordings to share very soon. You'll have the Zoom attendance list so you can cross-check in terms of your outreach invitation tracker who did show up and build on those foundations. And, you know, this is up to you, but harnessing the energy of the showcase in place, hosting a gathering or a potluck or a story sharing circle or a campfire off the back of that serves as a bit of a bridge between now and the bioregional mapping workshops. I think that's all I had on the slides, so I'm going to stop sharing. So I've got 3 minutes left. Probably people have questions, but I'd also like to do a checkout. What do you think, Claire? Go live.
Yeah, yeah, if there are some questions, we can also deal with that in the Mighty Networks. So, but are there any burning questions before we go to a short checkout? Okay.
One quick one that's popping up right now, just looking at as we're moving into the bioregional mapping, like scope and scale of what are we actually mapping here? Like if we just took, we're going to map food.
You know,
That,
Shapit, I'm just going to stop you there. There's the whole section that we're going to be going through. There's so much to answer on that. That
But was that more geared towards your homework, Shapit? Like something that would help you with your scoping in terms of your homework? Yeah. Can we give any tips on scoping then? Just high level, Brandon? Maybe that's something you could.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. We had a very similar. We had a big barbecue on Friday after the event for Vashon, and it was really fun because we had exactly that conversation, and I would just think that, and it went right into that. What is the scope is huge, right? And so Vashon and I were like, oh yeah, Vashon, and then we're like, but what are we even measuring? And that's going to be a huge, as Claire just said, incredibly complex. We're going to have lots of things. But what's really fun is like, someone was like, oh man, mussels, clams. And then someone else was like, "Oh yeah, it used to be that the J-pod orcas used to come into this bay, and so that would be like a metric of success." We're like, "Oh yeah, that's great." And then what it really got down to was like people started to really kind of get it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's almost like how do you bring all the groups to create like an action plan or a regeneration plan for what would it take to actually regenerate this place?" And so yes, it's food, but it's going to be a lot more than that too. And so just starting to think about that, and also with the idea that we're very small and we only have limited capacity, and so that'll just all need to be things that we think about, is yeah, like realistically what can we do, and yeah, but what are the layers that we need to think about? Who? I think the who is also like who, and it's not stakeholders, but like the who are the participants that we would really want to engage, that are important to be there and have their voices accounted for.
maybe just to add also a bit of clarity onto that is just we going back to minimum viable process. Who are the people that you may be thinking about that can support you when you're holding a community event that you might draw on to volunteer to help set up the space, to help, if it's like over the course of a weekend or 3 days or so, it takes capacity to do that, and you don't want to overstretch yourselves. And so what is a comfortable, like what can you actually successfully host so that it's the beginning of a process. And once you start to do this, you can start to expand it over time as you grow capacity, but we don't want to overstretch ourselves. So you're going to have to think about how many people do I know? Yeah.
Okay,
Corey.
so the homework was specifically around venue and Indigenous protocols and relationships. And so, Corey, you've got a question in the chat about what is the minimum number of people to create a good mapping event for our work. That's probably helpful for venue related. Can Brandon or Claire answer that one? Because I
maybe
don't personally know.
just to give an idea, what's the minimum that really
Yeah.
would make a good, and what's like the
What should you be planning
just
for
a
in a
range of
venue?
people might help
I
Yeah.
people
I
think
think the
about it.
minimum is Corey. Let's see, one. No, I'm just kidding. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Like
Yeah, Claire,
12, is
what's your
that
thought?
enough?
I
12, 10, 20? I mean, I think that would help people.
So
Just
I
some
think
really
I
just
would just go
basic
back.
idea.
I would just go back to really think about the quality of your relationship, and think about the weavers in your landscape, all those people that Brian and other people were talking about who are really doing the work, who really need to be present as part of that conversation that you'd like to have. And maybe that's 10, maybe it's 15, maybe it's 20, and it might be more than that, but then you also need to be careful of not going too huge.
and
Okay.
remember, you're just wanting to think about a diversity of voices in the room too. That is one of the things we really want you to pay attention to, so that you're not just getting the choir. Um, yeah,
A good
but
approach in whole systems work is to actively seek the no, because there's usually something in the no that's absolutely critical to understand and unpack for the whole system to move forward. So don't be
A
afraid
quick
to.
question about this is, will, in the phase two, early on, will we be discussing this specific topic more?
Yes.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
This is a lot of focus on this. And so just getting an idea of the variety of options in your community. That's the homework. It's not to do anything specially on it, but what venues do you have available? And just starting to get your heads wrapped around sort of strategic locations for it.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like our outcome of phase two, like we're going to work to be much more tight around it, but it really will be in May or June, we're going to do an in-person bioregional mapping workshop. So the time that we'll spend together will be really gearing us towards that, who needs to be present, doing the invitations, getting the venue. Um, yeah, so we'll have a lot of time to talk about this, and feel free to start thinking what that means.
So we are at time, and we thought it would be nice to have a one sentence checkout from everyone. Do people want to go ahead with that and spend a little bit longer for a one sentence checkout? Or shall we just close now? It's probably a difficult question to ask. How about we say if you want to stay for a one sentence checkout, you can, and if you need to leave on the dot, then you
Yeah,
can
if you
also
need
do
to.
that.
Yeah, I was going to say it would be lovely, especially to hear, well, to hear all of your voice, but just the ones that haven't spoken, just what are you leaving with right now before we go? So, and maybe if someone who hasn't spoken maybe could start.
Let's raise our virtual hands and let's go for it. And if you don't want to be a part of a checkout circle, you can drop off the call.
So who hasn't spoken yet would like to start?
And so yeah, like one sentence for, just human sharing about where you're at right now, what you're looking forward to, how you're leaving phase one, whatever. Doesn't have to be. So, Asha, let's hear from you.
I think transparency is essential. My sentence would be completely vulnerable in whatever state we are in means that we are completely authentic. And I'll pass that on to. Did Debbie get to go yet? I know your hand's not raised. Or Brandon.
I'll go.
Debbie.
Yeah, I'll go. Hello. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to the mapping. And learning about the results from every different group on the mapping. So it'll be fun.
Who do you want to pass to?
Christoph.
I'll pass it to someone who hasn't gone yet. Corey, we haven't heard from you in a bit, and your hand's raised. Do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, tonight was good, getting into the mud a little bit, which is appreciated. The mud in the air and everything else. Um, yeah, definitely looking forward to the mapping. It can't happen soon enough. except it's going to take a lot of work to get there. So maybe you can. I will pass to Christoph. Did you say your last sentence, or am I passing it right back to you?
Well, since you said my name, I'll just say I'm feeling a lot of gratitude and appreciation for everyone through this process, particularly everyone in the RC staff who provided the framework and infrastructure for all this. So congrats and great job, everyone else, for the completion of your presentations. Looking forward to the next phase. With that, I'll pass it over to Brian.
Thanks, Christoph. Yeah, I just, you know, much gratitude and love to everybody who's stead through this process. It is a journey, and it is like it's all about the journey. It's not about the goal. Although there is the goal that brings us through the journey. And I'm thankful to be doing it with you all.
Who are you going to pass
I'll
to?
pass it to Shaylee.
Hey, yeah. Echoing that, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be learning alongside each other and just the challenges and how we can, with that, just be sharing our stories and learning and being there for each other in our landscape groups intimately and just in the bigger ones. So happy to see everybody in this room and to know that we'll have more opportunities to interface with each other close and far, and to just keep doing this work in the ways that we can. So, yeah. And I'll pass it to Chapit and Genevieve. You're in the top corner. There you go.
I really struggled with the structure of this class, like the way the teaching was, and the way that just felt like there wasn't room for feedback and wasn't room for questions. And so I'm just hoping that I can participate, that something can shift so that maybe I could have more input, or like I'm kind of feeling on the edge, and I don't really like that feeling. And I have like a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and um yeah, it just feels really hard to interact with this.
Yeah.
Chapit, do you want to say something?
Yeah. I am proud of all the work that we have done as a group, both locally and at the Cascadia level. And this has been just a profound journey for me, and like happy to be a part of it and happy to keep working on making it better and better and better for everybody. Um, David Ketter.
Yeah, thank you all. It's really been a pleasure to do this tonight, to hear each other's voices and hear both the same and different voices and different perspectives on the same thing. Reminded of that old proverb of the wise men and the elephant. They're all telling about their perspective on the elephant from the one thing that they're touching. And it sounds very different, but it's the same thing. So interesting navigating all that. And I noticed, and I said this to my small group, that I'm feeling now, just beginning to head into phase two, like I did at the beginning of phase one. Like, what is this? Where we're going? I'm a little confused. How are we going to do this in the time allotted? Have a mapping thing in May when we don't even start talking about it until late March. That feels like is this doable? So kind of thing, and then we'll figure it out one way or the other. And so I got confidence in my experience from phase one that I can go through the same learning curve in phase two. So thank you, and I'll pass it to about who hasn't it? David, have you spoken to Haskell?
Well, all I gotta say is hasta la vista, compadres. We'll see everybody on the other side of the mapping, and I'm looking forward to the mapping. We got a lot of mappers ready to go here, so I can't see very many people who hasn't spoken yet. So who hasn't spoken yet?
Cindy hasn't gone yet.
Cindy, I guess you're up. You go.
Cindy, did you hear? Oh, she's on the phone. Okay, I think Sue Letzinger hasn't got her hand up, but she hasn't gone yet.
Well, you're on mute, Sue.
Yeah, no, I have spoken, but yes, I'm very excited about the mapping, and I think this, yeah, it's just a really good next step, and so so I'm feeling good about that. Let me see. See, I guess we're getting down to Brandon, and Claire, and Taya. So, Claire, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so excited to see what everybody was able to put together. And I loved the co-learning that we saw going on. We just saw how you were sparking each other, and we see that as rich. So more of that. And I heard that loud and clear tonight too. Brandon.
Yeah, I think I'll just end with incredible gratitude for all of the work and time that you have put in. It has taken an incredible amount of trust and learning together. And to say that all we can do is all that we can do right now is cultivate the conditions, and we don't know what that means. We don't know what that looks like. It's emerging. We're like one of the first groups doing this in the world right now, and there's an incredible amount of people looking at us and trying to learn. We're all learning together, and it's completely emergent. And so, and I just want to say, I thought you all killed it in your presentations. I thought it was amazing. Um, Hundreds of people will see that and be inspired. And we hope that it was useful for you to help build these connections and be able to hone and tell your story of what you're doing better. And yeah, looking forward to a little bit of a break, and then really excited just to keep going. And just a big thank you, lots of gratitude to everybody. And over to you, Taya.
So thanks for showing up today. I mean, we didn't even get this advertised until a week before. It's only a 90-minute session. We certainly cannot access the breadth and the depth of feedback that we know are critical to continuing to shape this platform of the LHC to be something that we're all really, really integrated with and feel like we can bring our whole selves to. So I'm just going to reiterate again, I know surveys aren't very sexy, but when the online form comes out, I just please encourage you all to be as honest and forthright and clear about your ideas of the challenges you've come across or the gaps that you've felt in phase one. And we will do our best to respond to those and to co-design. And thank you also for staying on the call a little bit longer, and deep gratitude. And I wish everyone peace, rest, rejuvenation, and dynamic connection with your landscapes.
All right. Thank you all.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Take good care, all.
Thank
We'll
you.
miss you.